Find out what it means to try to brand the Myrtle Beach area. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning with the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're focused on the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce and branding the area. And we're visiting with Theda Jackson, the Vice President of Marketing at the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Theda.
Good morning, Greg.
Thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
On a Friday this close to Christmas. We're just 8 days away.
I'm desperate. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm looking forward to the holiday.
How's the shopping going? Have you been able to do any?
I have not.
Oh, come on.
I have not.
8 days? You better get out of the studio and get over to the mall.
It's gift certificates. I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah.
That's smart. Gift certificates are a good way to go.
Yeah, because I have to travel, so.
Oh, really? Are you not here in the area for Christmas?
I'm going to see the rest of my family in Philadelphia.
In Pennsylvania? In Philadelphia?
In Pennsylvania, yes.
Now, when you say Philadelphia, do you ever think that's in Pennsylvania? Or, I mean, you know, Philadelphia is such a big city.
Relatively speaking, it's not. It's made up of a lot of small communities and neighborhoods. And actually, 70% of the people who grow up in Philadelphia never leave, so I'm kind of an anomaly.
Oh, wow. Is that right?
Yes, I think so.
Well, you know, Theda, it was so fascinating earlier this morning, last night, reviewing a little bit about you and to see growing up in Philadelphia, attending college in the Boston area in Cambridge, then being in New York City for much of your life before being in Denver. Not to lay out the interview in 10 seconds, but just to think of all these large cities, and now in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which of course is perceived by so many as kind of a large area. What's that been like for you, that kind of transition from these gigantic cities down to a permanent community of less than 30,000?
Well, I believe everybody asks me that question, you know, how do you go from a big city to a small city? But as I said, Philadelphia is a city of small neighborhoods and people are very close there. And my parents are Southerners, and we used to visit the South, and I'm kind of an outdoors kind of person. So I'm pretty flexible at adjusting to either the big city life or the country life, and there's wonderful golf here. So
yes.
There's another motivation for thinking of this as a wonderful place. Also, because we have so many visitors here during the summer, it's like a big city in many ways. We have all of the amenities, all the things to see and do, but it just quiets down a little bit in our lighter season. So,
that's a very good point. You said your folks are from the South. What part of the South, Theda?
they're both from Virginia.
Yeah, that's kind of the South. No, I'm kidding. That's very Southern. That's right.
I can turn on a Southern accent pretty quickly.
I bet you could.
Yeah.
Could you do that while you were in Cambridge? Well, I guess, you know, let's get into that. Share with the viewers a little about growing up in Philadelphia. Of course, how exciting it was, as you say, a series of boroughs or a series of smaller communities.
Yes. Well, block associations are a big thing in Philadelphia. The blocks kind of band together to keep the neighbors in good stead, to keep the kids in line, to keep the streets clean. And that's kind of a tradition that's existed for many, many years. It's a very old city, and so it's had time to build up those kinds of traditions. And typical, I think, of a lot of kids that grew up there, I also spent a lot of time in my little neighborhood. It was also safer that way. You know, it was a big city. And so you wanted to stay around people who knew you and would call your mother if you did something bad. But I got a chance when I was in the 7th grade to go to a private girls' school, which meant that I commuted at about 12 or 13 years old, 20 miles to school.
Wow.
That's how I learned to knit. I had a lot of time on my hands. And that kind of extended to an opportunity to go to Harvard for college.
Yes.
And so there was somewhat of a natural progression there.
Which was a spectacular progression. That must have been wonderful being and share with viewers about being in Cambridge. I don't know how many of our viewers have been to Cambridge or that part of Boston or attended Harvard or spent time up there on the campus.
It is an awe-inspiring place. They have real bells in some of the dorms that ring. This time of year, holiday, the carols are out.
Oh, yeah.
It's an old tradition. If you read more about it, you find out some of our founding fathers, you know, helped build that college. And I kind of like the idea that their motto is Veritas, which is truth. And I think that we need a lot more of that in our society and in marketing and some of the things that we do.
You know, my brother was a freshman there in 1986, and it was fascinating because I think it was 1636 that's a big date for Harvard. So it was a 350-year celebration there at Harvard, and in '86, big year for him. And of course, we used to go up for my dad had gone to Harvard and Harvard Law, and it was fascinating visiting up there with him, who attended school there in the 40s and law school there in the late 40s, and then for my brother in the 80s and finishing up in '90. It was such a fascinating city.
It is, it is. And the professors there, you get to work with Nobel Peace Prize winners, and you see Henry Kissinger walking down the street.
Oh my God!
So it kind of, puts a little bit of awe about how people get educated. But you also realize, and I think that's really important too, that all of your learning comes from much of the detail and the texture of all the parts of the country. And so it really broadens your horizons.
Yeah. You know, we think about in Myrtle Beach, or I've been here a good 7 or 8 years, when you think about being in a city like this, there's, as you talked about earlier before we started the interview, so many things to do, so many different aspects, and taking advantage of those. Growing up in a city like Philadelphia, did you take advantage of some of the what are perceived as very popular tourist destinations? You know, we think of Ben Franklin or other amazing characters from the past.
Yes. Oh, I loved Ben Franklin. We went to the Franklin Institute all the time.
Really?
Yes. We went to the planetarium. That was one of the few places we could go outside of the neighborhood. We could go to the library. We could go to the Franklin Institute. So I got very familiar with a lot of the very historic places, Liberty Bell, Penn's statue on top of City Hall, and why there were, for many years, no buildings taller than that. So I did take advantage of that.
Reminding folks to take advantage of their great, the great natural beauty or the great inspired beauty like that.
Yes, I think in this area, more people should become familiar with Huntington State Park. It's a beautiful, natural environment, very pristine, the sea grass and all that. It's just lovely.
Yeah.
And I was quite amazed at Brook Green Gardens the first time I went there.
It is.
It was just stunning. Although I got into one enclosed garden. It was late in the afternoon, dusk was falling, and it was a rose garden. And I kind of wandered in, not paying close attention, and these lovely but very large bugs started walking out on the path, and I blocked. I said, how am I going to get out of here? But I managed to tiptoe through the bugs without causing a panic.
It is incredible to think about. That's the largest outdoor sculpture garden, not only in South Carolina, not only in the South, not only in the U.S., but in the world.
Yes.
When you think about the impact of that right over the county line in Georgetown, of course, you don't think county lines. The Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce doesn't think county lines.
No, we try to
sure,
think
the Georgetown County Chamber thinks a little bit of county lines, but it's an incredible opportunity to really meld 60 miles of coastline and a heck of a lot of inland area as well. And you all have chamber members from everywhere.
We do, from all over the region, literally. And we try to provide services and marketing opportunities for all of them. Obviously, one of the big things that we do with the Chamber is we have our Stay and Play, and this is a brand new Stay and Play guide, and you can go online and order it at myrtlebeachinfo.com.
Okay.
But this is just hot off the presses, and it has all of our members' hotel listings, and all of the activities that there are to do in town. So if people are interested, it's time to order it. We just got them in.
Folks can go to myrtlebeachinfo.com.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a great, and of course, they could if they popped into the chamber offices, a number of the chamber
they're
state
there.
Locations, that's great. That's great.
They might not be at the state centers just yet, because we literally got them yesterday.
Oh, great, yeah. Just like, and to think we're this close to Christmas, folks may think of going online for, to get a good feel of some of the things going on at the beach. This time of the year, y'all also have a pocket guide for Stay and Play.
This is a really new piece that we came out with that really helps to sell our destination. And because of that, we put a lot more pictures on it.
Right.
Not only on the front cover, but on the back cover, because when you have that much to sell in your destination, you don't want to leave anything out, but by the same token, you can't cover everything.
Yes.
But this is new. It's abbreviated. It does have hotel listings in it, but no ads.
Right.
But all of the activities are in there. And that's something that will be available primarily at the visitor and information centers.
How critical. Absolutely. It's amazing the amount of publications or the pieces of mail that go through y'all's, through the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, that amazing
Absolutely.
facility there on Oak Street. And I think how much interaction y'all are dealing with the Postal Service.
We have a wonderful relationship with the Postal
Yes, that's right.
Office.
You probably get a nice Christmas card from them, too.
Oh, no, I think it's the other way
Or
around.
the- oh,
we,
yeah.
we send them thank you gifts
Oh,
because
that's
they
right.
really do help us out. We do at times, for example, in January, we have a big push with advertising to let people know that the new guides are out. And we literally have to hire part-time staff at that time to start to fulfill all the requests for guides. And the post office really does help us out. They come by every day and pick up the bulk mail that we're shipping out.
Wow, that is fantastic.
It's a really important relationship for us.
Yeah, that is. I see one more publication. It's probably, or a couple more things here. Grand Strand Living. I know we haven't gotten into all your responsibilities there at the Chamber, and obviously publications is one that
It's
is
one area.
intimately involved with the marketing.
Yes. Well, we find that publications are really important. Even though there's a lot going on the internet right now, people still like these full-color things in front of them. You can't print it off this nicely at home.
No.
And so we do spend a lot of time and effort against really having great publications. Most of them are designed to go out of the market to really bring people here
Right.
for our tourism business. But this publication, Grand Strand Living, really does help the local population. It helps people who are relocating, retirees, and it has all of our member listings in there. Not only tourism, but just chamber members who can help people out. So that's also very new, we think very attractive, and people can also request that at the same website.
A lot of big pictures and bigger headlines. It was fascinating. One of those early quotes from you, I think I saw in the Myrtle Beach Area Business Journal, was getting bigger pictures, bigger headlines, and obviously thinking more about continuing to build the brand of the Myrtle Beach area or the Grand Strand.
Yes. The Grand Strand is a really important part of the branding and marketing process, but it's not the top thing we need to focus on. We're still the Myrtle Beach area, and we represent all those cities on the Grand Strand. But to the degree that many cities have a tagline, and we are known as the Grand Strand, that may be something that we incorporate into our branding. But we're right now going through a very intense branding process where we have our members and significant marketing people in the community really looking at all of the great features and benefits that we offer to our visitors. And then we're going to wrap all of that up into a feeling so that whenever we create an ad or whenever we create a book like this, that feeling will come through in the types of pictures that we have, in the way we word our headlines, and even the font that we select to be on whatever piece it happens to be. So that is a process that's just begun in the last month. And the committee members have been great. We've met every week for the first 3 weeks. And the end goal of this is to get all of those pieces of information together, the pictures, the look, the feel that we want, and then farm that out to agencies and say, we would like you to bid on this work, because there's a lot that we do with advertising. We spend almost $2.2 million in advertising.
Is that right?
And we want it to be the top-notch, world-class advertising. And we've done a good job in-house, but we want to make sure that we have the best. And so we're going to be soliciting agencies with an RFP, a request for proposal, to have them bid on that business and to create an ad that once the committee has screened it and it's actually gone through consumer testing, we will then have a new creative look that represents the Myrtle Beach area.
How exciting, Theda. That takes on a heck of a lot of responsibilities. Of course, as you say, really tapping the community, whether it's marketing professionals or other advertising professionals, particularly folks who've been here a heck of a long time who really know some of the amazing nooks and crannies in the area. And of course, there are a heck of a lot of people in the PD and southeastern North Carolina who come down here on a regular basis, make this a weekend hangout for them, who potentially you can solicit ideas from. What's really special for you folks who drive 2 or 3 hours when the weather's good?
We are actually going to do some perception research with customers who are regulars for the beach, so we know what their feeling is about the beach. But we're also going to go beyond our area of comfort, out into areas where we haven't done as intense a job of advertising, and we're going to call people on the phone and ask them what their perception of the Myrtle Beach area is, because we can't just look at how we perceive it. We're almost too close. It's like when you bring something too close to your face, you can't see it well. we're going to ask them what their perception is, and if there's anything that's missing or confused, we'll try to iron that out in the branding process.
Your new boss, we hear all the time, I hate to even call anyone a boss, but Brad is a boss, and it's fascinating. He always talks about that aspect of 2 ears, 1 mouth. There's a reason we got 2 ears and 1 mouth, to listen twice as much as we talk, and I think that's so vital.
Yes, in my first months here, I actually just went to the beach and sat.
Ooh,
and,
yeah.
you know, put on that invisible veil and just listened to how people were enjoying themselves and the types of things that they talked about and the types of things that they did. As a marketer, that's an important skill. It's almost, some people think of marketing as that bubbly, you know, got to sell, sell, sell. And for me, it is a lot of listening, a lot of doing the research, doing the background, watching how people interact with pieces. One of the videotapes that I showed our branding committee just at the beginning was something that I had done when I was in Denver. And we talked to 18 customers for our research there, one-on-one. We had a we videotaped it, and we had a professional interviewer in the room. But we showed them many ads and got them to talk about it and how their family vacationed and what they like to do and their perceptions of that city.
Right.
And then when we showed them the ads, and we asked them to select the one that was the most meaningful for them, you could see them touching it and pointing out things, and you could see they were interacting with the piece. And hopefully our research here will also give us some of those insights, because it tells you a lot more about your destination when somebody from the outside is reacting positively to it than things that we kind of take for granted while we're here. So.
Theda, it was so interesting reviewing some of your background leading up to this position. Of course, seeing in the mid-'80s, receiving your MBA at NYU, very exciting opportunity up there, but being with groups where in product development and branding and launching different products, things that actually go on shelves, whether it's Bayer or Colgate Palmolive, or your experience with Philadelphia Coca-Cola bottling, all these products that you can see in your mind up on a shelf, and you see how people are walking up and down aisles and perceiving them. And it's so important to know that same aspect is done in branding a community where you're really touching and feeling things. As you said, you can't quite get that on the internet, even though the internet's invaluable. Touching and feeling the Grand Strand Living or Stay and Play or the Pocket Guide, how invaluable.
It is. Well, one of the things that is a little different about packaged goods marketing, where you have a hard product and it's got a small physical space, versus a tourist destination, is that a tourist destination has so many elements to it. It's a very complex thing. It's got lodging, it's got a beach, we have entertainment, we have attractions, and it's harder to wrap that in a very finite package. But what we are going for, in addition to very important features, obviously the beach is always going to be part of that, but is the feeling that people have. And we've been described as America's beach. The Travel Channel called us one of the best family beaches. And those are things that are important in people when they're making a vacation selection. And we're going to find a way to wrap that in the best package, so that people, when they see the pictures and they hear us talking about the beach, they'll get it. They'll say, oh yeah, that's the kind of experience that I want to have. And it's done in sometimes obvious ways and sometimes more subtle ways. I mean, clearly in some of the things that we've done recently, we've highlighted the fact that we have 60 miles of beach, that we have 120 golf courses, and those are very descriptive. But just the way you select the pictures, how the families are interacting. We actually had one picture for the Stay and Play Guide, where it's a family at the beach and the kids are playing in the sand. And we had looked at it so long, and then finally someone said, that the father in that picture doesn't look happy.
Oh my God.
So we can't use that picture. He doesn't look happy. And so those are the kinds of things that you really have to be observant about when you're thinking about the brand. All those little details come into play.
You're right. You're right. It is fascinating. I think I picked up Stay and Play last year, and I see, or maybe it was Grand Strand Living, I see a local banking executive on the cover. I don't know if you met Dale Zeglin, who was on the cover, and I thought, wow, he looks happy. He's obviously enjoying the beach.
Absolutely.
Which was fascinating. You know, it's when you think about so many aspects of really stepping out and continuing to find ways to, and branding is such a big thing. When a viewer hears that word branding, it can touch so many aspects of a company. Company has to have their ducks in the water, their rows in the water. I mean, they have to have a good bit of background to be able to really create the brand and know themselves.
It is, and some of it is more subtle, as I was saying, and I don't want to hold this piece up, but I came into a committee and we were creating a piece for this holiday season for Merrily Myrtle. And it's a promotion that we do. We send out a lot of direct mail. We have inserts in the newspaper. And the first rendition of it was pretty finished. It had this beautiful red bow on it, and it had multiple pictures on it. But one of the things that bothered me was that we had grayed out the beach in order to put a lot of copy on there. And my first response was, why would we gray out our best feature?
Right.
I said, let's put some color back in the beach. People aren't going to pay attention to all that copy. Give them a great picture. Tell them a quick, hello, this is what this is about, that we're the Myrtle Beach area and the Grand Strand.
Right.
Here's how you get your free information. Let the pictures tell the story.
Good for you, Theda. It's almost so good that you're coming from out of market, that you come in here from Denver. You remember some of the great aspects. We think of Denver, we think of mountains or otherwise, and of course you're thinking of Myrtle Beach. And so many folks don't even know that Myrtle Beach is in South Carolina. They think Myrtle Beach is that Florida. Is it in the Carolinas?
Absolutely.
It could be North Carolina for all they know, for the Midwest or otherwise, in California. So just making sure they understand Myrtle Beach ahead of, or the Grand Strand and the Grand Strand ahead of anything else.
We think there are a lot of opportunities. Certainly, North Carolina is a big feeder market for us. Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, all through the Northeast, but we don't think we're optimized there. With the branding, we think we can go deeper into those markets if we use our media correctly, and we like to use all kinds of media. We use TV. Internet is a big one and a growing one. The publications are very obvious, but also newspapers. And the downside of newspapers is that they're black and white. So we've got to find a way to get more color into our newspapers, and if not, get bigger pictures so that it at least stands out from the crowd.
Sure.
And with this branding process, you're going to see like wow ads. They're going to really pop, and people will see them and remember them.
In your background, what do you think's given you the best sense to be able to take on this position? I mean, whether it was in Denver, the years there, and of course recreating and helping them grow so dramatically, but was it the time at Coca-Cola there in Philadelphia? Was it actually attending school and being with other peers talking about opportunities, marketing growth? What do you think in your background has given you the best feel of being able to take on this position and do the job that everyone expects and are seeing you doing?
Well, I think probably the best sort of mentor that I had is I worked with a gentleman who helped launch Advil. And a very smart guy, but very laid back, and he would always say, well, you can't believe the research. He talked like a mobster. It was very funny. So you can't believe the research, but what does it say? And he made sure that everybody who was involved in the brand really thought very hard about what was important, and he trained us to get a gut feel. He said, if it doesn't feel good to you in your gut, it's not going to feel good to the consumer.
Wow.
And it's after a while you do get to see how people understand that gut feel. You're listening to consumers and visitors, and when they do that aha, you're like, we got it.
Yeah.
So that kind of experience where you always strive to do it better, brighter, and more effectively. But you also have to say, has it got the right feeling to it? If it doesn't have that feeling, it can look great. It has to change.
But Theda, I mean, that means that whoever is hired or to reach out and get that gut feel, I mean, it has to be the right catch, because lots of folks have different gut feels. I mean, the mobster guy may have a different gut feeling about how something's going to be launched than Theda Jackson or Greg Everett. I mean, the chamber, for instance, has to feel really good about Theda Jackson and her ability to get that gut feel and it be right.
Right, but it's not just my gut feel.
Oh, yeah.
And part of what I've done in the branding process is to get people to experience it. And I ask them questions like, have you ever had love at first sight? And most people will raise their hand.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the feeling we're looking for. If the ad doesn't make you feel that way, it's not a good ad.
Wow.
And then ultimately you take it to the consumer. It's never my opinion that's important. If the consumer likes it, that's the way it goes. And I guess another example is I worked on the Bear brand, and some of you may be old enough to remember a campaign that was, we asked 1,000 doctors if they were stranded on a desert island, which pain reliever, would they want to have along?
Right.
And all of them say, Bear aspirin. And we hated that ad. We thought it was the hokiest and but people bought more and more aspirin. And every year when we asked the doctors that question, more of them said, we take Bear aspirin.
Oh my God.
And that was at a time when that product was being approved for prevention of stroke, first stroke, second stroke, first attack, heart attack, second heart attack, and the doctors really believed it was a wonder drug. And so Irregardless of what we thought was, awful, ugly, corny ad, it worked. And that was what was important.
Wow, how exciting, Theda. That is cool. I mean, they really got in that mindset. They began to believe the ads.
They believe the product.
I know, absolutely, of course.
The product
sure.
has to perform.
No, that's exactly right.
You can't overpromise, for sure.
You cannot. We got less than a minute, and I'm sorry time has flown. 25 minutes has blown by. Some of those important, being down at Huntington Beach State Park, being at Brook Green, obviously, as you said, sitting out on the beach, trying to imagine yourself as a tourist or listening to other tourists in the area. Mm-hmm. The most meaningful aspect there is trying to encourage the folks within the chamber to do the same thing.
Yes, we will, as we go through this branding process, we will not only do a presentation to our board, but we plan to launch this to the community so that they can learn if they've got ads, because many of our members also advertise out of the market. If they can learn something about our customer that improves their advertising, that'll be just many-fold over improving the image of the Myrtle Beach area.
Absolutely. Theda, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
Definitely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Theda Jackson coming up next. We didn't get to talk about some of those small town aspects of Theda Jackson's background. It was fascinating hearing her talking about growing up in Philadelphia, attending school in Boston, living much of her life in New York City, being in Denver for 4 years prior to coming to Myrtle Beach. She's a watercolor artist. She loves to knit. You heard her talk a little bit about that, obviously skiing and golfing, some of the aspects of her life we didn't get into. One thing we did get into was the bug story, being down at Brook Green Gardens, trying to get away from the bugs. But the really exciting thing is there are aspects like that. And you know those aspects. You live here, you live in Lumberton or Laurinburg, you come down and you live those same things. If you've got a great story about coming to the beach, go to myrtlebeachinfo.com, click the Contact Us area, and send that story down. The Chamber wants to collect stories like that and find out some of the great aspects, or you can call the Chamber at 843-626-7444. If you come down to the beach and spend some time out there and take it in, let the Chamber know about it. They want to know that. Theda Jackson's stepping out, and she's in the right direction.